everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Welcome to this week's Ponderous Wednesday, where I take a thought-provoking and interesting topic and have a good old ramble about it here on YouTube to stimulate some interesting discussion down in the comment section. Now this week we're going to be talking about buying silver in person. Well, to be honest, buying any precious metals in person. I've been inspired to do that because I have recently done a in-person meet cash transaction purchase of some rather large bars, so I'll end the suspense of the thumbnail and video title. This is what I have recently purchased in a cash transaction in person from a seller here in the UK for 100 ounce Baird & Co bars, and boy oh boy is this pretty special. This is to go along with the 100 ounce bar that we bought for this chap in the USA a couple of weeks ago. I featured this in a video a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, he wasn't 100% satisfied with it. You know, it was obviously bought directly from Bullion, so it's a little bit more expensive. It didn't have these gorgeous ripples on it, and he was hungry for more. He is an avid collector of large bars, as you can guess. He's obviously in a different league to a lot of stackers out there who maybe 500 ounces is a lifetime stack rather than just a kind of monthly purchase. However, you know, this guy, he wants to buy these. He can't find them in the USA. I was on the lookout for more of these bars. Obviously, we bought this one from a dealer, and I eventually found 4 more of these bars up for sale on the kind of private market. So I wanted to share today my experiences of going through this purchase and everything that I did to kind of protect myself. Also the steps that maybe one can think about if you're the seller to protect yourself when selling these bars or any silver or gold or any kind of cash transactions for these types of things that you're making. Now, of course, everything that I'm saying today is just my own views and opinions. I'm not here to tell you what you should or should not do definitively. Of course, every situation is going to be different. Every person's view on this is going to be different. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. This is why I make these videos every Wednesday, so that we can get that discussion going. Please do comment, but please remember to comment respectfully. So yeah, we bought 500 ounces. Let's just take a moment to admire these 500 ounces of silver. It's absolutely staggering, to be honest. And again, I just want to reiterate a huge thank you to this chap, this buyer in America, who has given me permission to show these bars on my channel here, because they are something incredibly special that you don't see every day, and I'm really happy for that, so thank you. Now then, where did I find them? So I found this seller actually on eBay, of all places, and eBay is a really great place to start, and it touches on a topic which I talked about a couple of weeks ago, which was about seller reputation and building that seller reputation. And when I saw this chap's profile on eBay, he has I think like 800 different positive reviews on eBay. He's been selling gold and silver on eBay for a very long time, and that's always a good sign. If you've got a seller who is constantly selling silver and gold, and he's got that good reputation, that in itself is a good sign straight off the bat. Now, I did not make this purchase through eBay though. Now, of course, eBay is a great place to actually buy things because you get the buyer protection, which is really, really important, and it's something which you should definitely factor into your decision making. If the seller is not as experienced, or if it's something that you feel a little bit off about, maybe don't do what I do. In fact, eBay do not really like what I did. However, I did also then find this chap's details outside of eBay, so I contacted him directly. I found him through social media and said, seen those bars that you've got on eBay, just wondering if they're still available. We made touch and we were texting, and we texted loads about these bars, talking about them, agreeing a price. Throughout this whole conversation, I was thinking to myself, well, that's all fine and well. He's got the bars, he's got a good reputation. However, you just never know. You really do never know exactly what is going to happen with a seller, what is going to be the state of play, what he's going to want to do. You know, for me as a buyer, for these types of things, I would expect, if you're buying them from a dealer, you pay up front, and then the money goes out to the dealer and you get delivery of the bars, and you've got obviously the kind of element of protection there because you're buying from a registered seller, registered person, and of course you're buying directly from somebody that's not the case. So, there's all those thoughts going through my mind. Do I pay him up front? Do I pay a deposit up front? What happens if he doesn't send them? All of these things. Also, there's then the element of actually posting for 100 ounce bars, which would be very expensive indeed. I have personal experience of that with the packages that I've recently flown up to the Edinburgh Assay Office. They charge an arm and a leg to post something this size, so it obviously eats into those kind of price points for each bar. So I said to the guy, how do you want to do this? Because I'm not particularly keen on sending you a whole bunch of cash without seeing the bars first. Of course, seeing the bars even first, making sure they're real silver is another factor to consider. And this seller was absolutely fine with that. Now, from his perspective, and this is something to think about if you're a seller as well, of course, he doesn't want to send the bars and wait for payment. Now, even though, I sort of made contact and he knew my sort of social media handle as Backyard Bullion and knew that I was Backyard Bullion, but how does he really know that I am Backyard Bullion? It's always that element of not knowing. So it's very interesting to find out what another seller does to protect, and he suggested that we exchange some personal information. Now, that's not necessarily something that I would advise everybody to do because, for example, for myself, my anonymity, I probably said that word wrong, is very important to me, and keeping that low profile is incredibly important for protecting myself, protecting my stack as well. So I said, I can do that as long as it's with my kind of business account, with my Backyard Bullion brand and name, and he was absolutely fine with that. He sent me some money through PayPal, so I had his details. I returned that money through PayPal with my Backyard Bullion account. We're only talking small amounts, £5 I think it was, so that we could both get that extra level of trust. That then doesn't necessarily mean that you're good to go in terms of posting everything out and sending it all out in the post and sending the bank's transfer without seeing the bars. We then agreed that we would meet in person, and that is my best advice to anybody if you are looking to make a sizable cash purchase of things like this, especially big bars like this, which you don't necessarily know from just pictures that are genuine, that are real. That is an important thing to consider. So pictures is a very important thing, actually, whilst we're talking about pictures. I did ask for the chap to send me some pictures of the bars from different angles so that I could see them. I've been around silver a lot. I've seen some of these 100-ounce bars in person as well, so I had a good understanding of what they should look like, what the markings should look like, where the markings should be, and all of that stuff. And he was very happy to do that. Of course, if a seller is a bit funny about sending you photos, then that's in itself a little bit of a warning point. Maybe you should think about why he's not sending the photos. Is he hiding something, all of that? But he did, and that's a great sign. So then we agreed to meet. Now, he offered to come to me, which is great. He travels for work, and he was going to be in my sort of area of the country on a certain day, and I said that's absolutely fine. He offered to come to my house. Now, obviously, that's not something that I was prepared to do. To give my address away, that's a big deal for me, and I wasn't really prepared to do that, and that's not something I would recommend to anybody in a kind of cash trade situation. Certainly if you have an online social media presence and you're sort of a YouTuber or a stacker which has got Instagram and all of that jazz, that's just not a sensible thing to do, in my opinion. So we agreed to meet at a mutually convenient location, which was a pub and a pub car park. And we did, and we agreed ahead of time. We exchanged phone numbers. Obviously, we had that right at the start. We agreed when we'd meet, where we'd meet, and it was, in a pub, and in a car park in a pub which has got other people around. It's not necessarily going to be crowded, where there's so many people that you can't even talk, out in the open, or exchange the silver, exchange the cash without other people seeing. You can find a secluded part of the car park, but it's a lot better than meeting, for example, under a bridge in the middle of nowhere or a deserted neighbourhood or something like that. It's just that's not a good idea in my books. It's just opening yourself up to potential risks which are not worthwhile. So we met in this pub car park. As I said, we went over to a sort of slightly secluded part of the car park, but just be aware and sensible of your surroundings. Don't be overt about what you're doing. Don't sort of shout silver and all of that jazz. Don't flash the cash around. I had the cash, and the cash is another thing to think about. So when I made this cash buy, I had to go and withdraw the cash from my bank account, which was a fun process in its own right. I've never withdrawn that much cash before. I waltzed on into my bank and went up to the teller and said, can I have this much money out? And they said, yes, you can, but you're going to have to fill out a few forms. So I had to fill out a really interesting form, and I thought it would actually be asking me more questions about where the money had come from and what the money's for and what I'm going to be buying. But actually it was just basically a disclaimer to say that the bank has, and they did ask me a bunch of questions about why I'm doing it. Have I been asked to do it by another banking institution, by the police, or have I had people knock on my door and ask me for money, or say that I need emergency building works and all of this? Because there's been a lot of scams recently where people have been basically asked to go and withdraw large sums of money to pay for things in person, and that's not how you should do it. So from the bank's perspective, they were just covering their own side. Of course, then there is that record of me having withdrawn that much cash out of the bank, which is obviously something to factor in. But with your daily allowances that you can get from an ATM machine, that's not necessarily going to be a practical way to get out, certainly the amount of cash that you need to get these 4 100-ounce bars. So definitely another thing to think about. I've got nothing to hide though here. We're not doing anything illegal. The chap in America sent me the money ahead of time so that I could purchase these bars on his behalf. I've done that, and that's all good and up above board from my perspective. So, I'm not really worried about that side of things. It's from my business side of things as well. So there's an element there of saying, well, I'm buying these on behalf of somebody, I'm distributing them out to him. So it's all above board. So when I was going to the car park to meet this chap, the last thing that I thought about for my own safety and security, he's coming to sort of relatively close to me, within sort of 10 miles of where I lived, which is fine. A lot of people know kind of the district, the sort of the area that I live in, so per se, but they don't know sort of my address. But at the same time, I wanted to have that extra layer of protection, so I actually ended up parking my car, a certain amount of distance away, and then I walked to the pub. That was just to protect my identity at a further level, because obviously there's car registration number plates, and theoretically somebody could snap your number plate and then they'll be able to find out maybe who you are. So from that perspective, that's just another layer of protection. That's not to say that all of this was because I distrusted the seller. It's just those layers of protection which I wanted to keep in my head, so that I was feeling a little bit more comfortable about the cash sale. Now, walking to the cash sale with that amount of cash in your pocket, we're talking over £5,500 for 4 100-ounce bars, which is obviously a large amount of cash to have in your pocket. It's a bit strange, really, having had experience of walking through the streets of Edinburgh, perhaps with like 23 kilos worth of silver. Hiding in plain sight is just an amazing tool. That is, the most important thing. So just be careful. Have that cash secured away nice and securely. It's not hanging out your pocket, or it's not bulging out your pocket, or something like that. Be sensible about your surroundings. Make sure. I know it's been paranoid, but make sure you're not being followed. Make sure that everything just seems normal. Make sure there's no sort of things to alarm you. Basically, is my best advice. Maybe I'm being a little bit too paranoid, but it's just common sense for me. That's how I want to go about doing these things. Then when we met the chap, he was a very nice chap, and in fact, as it turned out, he is somebody who has sold a lot of silver to people who then sell it on the silver forum. And a lot of you might be looking at these 4 100-ounce bars and thinking, they look remarkably similar to the other 100-ounce bar, which, by the way, has now been shipped off to its new owner in the USA, different chap to this buyer here. And it is, because these 4 bars came from the same batch that particular bar came from, the same seller, but just via another seller on the silver forum. So as it turns out, this chap is a very, very well-known seller in the silver forum community. They just maybe don't know that he is, because he sells via somebody else sometimes. So yeah, all in told, it was a very good experience to meet this chap. We had a good conversation actually about his dealings, what he does, what he can supply. Of course, it's really interesting for me as somebody who buys a lot of silver for my business to meet somebody who might well end up being a potential supplier of silver in the future post Brexit, if we're not able to get decent price silver from Europe anymore. So that was a really good experience. From his perspective, I think he did everything right as a seller. He took all of the precautions he needed. He was very open. He was very honest about his bars, where he got them from. He even, offered for me to basically have proof of purchase from his side of things. That's an important thing. Often you don't want to get caught up in if they're stolen goods, for example. Once I'd found out ahead of the meeting that he was, one of these people who sells quite a lot on eBay, I didn't really think that sort of level of degree was necessary. But, definitely something to consider if you are, a seller and a buyer doing other types of purchases, something to think about. So yeah, all told, we got the bars, and then I trundled off to my car, and it was about a 2-mile walk to my car with 12.5 kilos worth of silver slung over my shoulder in a bag. And that's my last point, which I'm going to just talk about here. For those of you who are hardcore viewers of my channel, I've talked about how heavy silver is before and why it's just so impractical. Having that much silver over your shoulder is not an easy thing to carry. It really does weigh down on you, literally. And, from my perspective, if you were looking to invest heavily, if you are like this chap in America who's got a larger budget, definitely think about investing in gold, because this is just far too much weight. It just is ridiculous. Of course, we've now got to post all of this out to the chap in America, and it's going to cost probably a little bit of an arm and a leg to do that through a courier. But hey ho, that is just my final thought on this, this whole topic. So there we go. That is my experience of buying 400 ounces of silver in person, in cash. I would do it again, definitely. I would always be careful. So that's my thoughts. That's my final kind of advice. Just take every precaution that you can and you feel is necessary to keep you safe, to keep the seller safe. I think that's just sensible advice. I would love to know your thoughts though. What would you do in that situation? Would you have done anything different to me? Let me know down in the comment section. If you like this video, if you liked this thought-provoking topic, then please do hit that like button and share it around on your social media as well. That would be very helpful for everything that I do here on my channel to continue to grow it. One last quick mention, at the time of filming this video, we had 6,970 subscribers. So I'm pretty sure that by the time this video goes live, we'll have 7,000. So massive thank you to all of you out there for helping hit that subscriber mark. That's pretty amazing. I'm continually blown away by your support. Otherwise, that is all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.